All right. Thank you guys for coming. I appreciate you, every one of you, for being here. Tonight, I know this is school night, and you guys are watching your shows and your reality shows and whatever it is that you do this time of night as college students. So I really appreciate you for taking the opportunity to come today and enjoy this presentation. All of you here are, of course, sophomores. And that means this is the time of decision. And before I go into the activity, I want to tell you a little bit about my journey and how I got here and why I do what I do. My name is Twan Perry. I'm a professional speaker and author. I started out in college just like you, but my journey was a bit different because I started out in community college. I started out as a community college student, but I started out in developmental classes. So I started out, which basically means you're taking classes that you don't get credit for. So I was taking developmental math for 2 years. And it was a pretty first-rate experience. However, one of the things that it taught me was my ability to be resilient. And so from there, I graduated, got my associate's degree, moved on to my four-year institution, which is Morgan State University, go Bears. And from there, I went off to get my master's degree in higher ed administration. And I practiced as an administrator for probably about 3 or 4 years in Ohio, North Carolina, and Massachusetts. And I decided to start my own company. And so now I'm traveling the world as a professional speaker. And so very excited to be here tonight to share with you some success strategies that's going to help you become a much better student, but also a much better leader. I want everyone to do me a favor and pull out a sheet of paper, because you're going to need to write some things down and do a few activities with me. So I'll give you a little bit of time to do that. Okay, you guys came prepared tonight. That's what I like to see. Okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and jump in. All right. When I ask you, a lot of people talk about swag. You know, I got swag. So when you think about swag, what do you think about? Can someone just throw some things out when you hear the word swag? What do you think about?
Confidence.
Confidence.
Style.
Style. Okay. All right. Anything else? Confidence and style could work. Okay, that's definitely doable. It's really the same thing, but when you talk about confidence and style, in order to develop your style, you got to know who you are. In order to know who you are, you got to have confidence. But before you can have confidence, you have to go through the process of experimenting and figure out what your strengths and weaknesses are. So swag. Swag doesn't just stand for style and confidence, it also stands for this. So give you what these mean in a second. Might want to zoom up on some of these. Swag. The S stands for strengths. So what are your strengths? What are your strong points? W stands for weaknesses. What are your weaknesses? I think just as much you understanding what your strengths are, you also have to know what your weaknesses are too. In the event that someone tries to call you out on it, or just for the sheer fact of you knowing how to overcome your weaknesses, how to improve upon some of the skills that you could be limited in. A is for achievements, and G is for goals. So let's go ahead and put that in. So obviously, each of these are really important. Let's start with strengths. That's important because it allows you the ability to be able to really sell yourself, because every employer, no matter what level you're on, whether you're an executive or whether you're an intern, is going to ask you that question. So what are your strengths? In other words, what can you do for this company that's going to help make us better? Because you never get paid per hour. You get paid according to your value. So the CEO that makes $80 million a year is not paid because they like him. He's not paid $80 million because they like him. He's being paid $80 million because he allows the company to make billions of dollars in profit. So you gotta ask yourself, what are your strengths? Weaknesses. Again, another important question, they're gonna ask you this. And true or false, when employers typically ask you in your interview, they'll ask you a question like, what can you improve upon, or what do you think your weaknesses are? They always ask you that question. You have to be able to know. This isn't the time in an interview to try to figure out what they are. You should already know going in, this is what I can improve upon. I understand that maybe I'm not a good listener, or maybe my communication skills could be better, or even better yet, before you even get to your weaknesses, be able to be in a position to tell them, yeah, these are my weaknesses, but I'm working on them. I'm working on them. And this is how I'm working on them. Achievements. This is another one that's important, because I think with a lot of student leaders, this is the main mistake that I see most student leaders do. They get involved in all these campus positions. They're like president of like 5 organizations, right? Or member of 6 organizations, but they're not getting any type of true value in the sense of they're not exploring the depth that's in that one position. So in other words, can you tell me as a student leader what you've done in your position? Or are you just listing the things you've done in terms of your positions? If you can tell me that you're president of your sorority or fraternity, president of SGA, my next question is going to be, what did you do in that position that changed your campus or made your campus better? That's the question. Then, of course, you have goals. What's next for you? The favorite question that many employers like to ask you is a question of, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? It's an important question. As you move up the ladder, they ask you other questions. They ask you about your short-term goals, your long-term goals. So when you think about your swag, when you put all this together, this allows you to be confident going into the interview or going into the opportunity, knowing not just what to expect, but also how to overcome some of the surprises they may have. And at every stage of the game, these are the questions that they're going to ask you. So that's your swag. Let's talk a little bit about now that you got your swag, let's talk a little bit about your commitment versus your interest. Because as sophomores, as juniors, as seniors, you're in a place of decision. Maybe I'm spelling it wrong. Maybe I'm not. But okay. There's a huge difference between a commitment and an interest. When we think about interest, we think about things that we're kind of half-heartedly doing. We kind of sort of want to do it, but we're not really sure if this is something that we're totally 100% on. Versus commitment. This is something we've committed to. This is what we know we're going to do. So for example, when you get up in the morning, right, and you come to school, are you interested in coming to school, or are you committed to it?
Committed.
You're committed because you show up, and you don't just show up, but you give your best effort. Or if you're just interested, you'll just be sitting at home talking about going to school, not necessarily putting it all together. So as a sophomore, you have to make a decision now in terms of your major, okay? How am I going to commit to this, and why should I commit to this? And asking the question why is really important, because that's your compelling reason. What was your major when you was in school, Patrice?
English and theater.
English and theater, okay. At what point did you make that transition from interest to commitment? What was the moment? What was the event?
I started off as undecided, then I went into theater, then I realized I wanted to incorporate more reading into my life. But then I realized I wanted both. I felt like I was gonna miss out on both if I didn't have both of them. So that was it for me.
Right, right. And what's your major?
Business management.
Business management, okay, all right, okay. What made you commit to business management?
I was an accounting major at first. And I didn't really like it,
So you wasn't interested in it, right? Didn't hold your interest, correct?
Correct.
But you found something that you felt, okay, this is not only interesting, but I can see myself doing this. So it became about making the possibility real for you, making that first step. So when you're interested in something, like I said before, it's temporary. It's nothing that you can see yourself doing for a long time. And you don't really put as much care into it. I think in student leadership positions, a lot of students are interested in being student leaders, but they're not committed to being student leaders. It's all about the glamour and the glitz. And when you're committed to something, it doesn't matter if you're going through a bad year. I remember when we were in SGA, in the beginning, we had a great fall semester. And then in the spring, we had a lot of challenges that we had to overcome. At that point, any one of us could have walked away. But since we were committed, we endured the fight. So I think that's really the difference between being interested and being committed. Which brings me to my next point. Because if you are going to be involved in your campus community, you have to know the difference between a student leader and a leading student. Anybody want to take a guess at the difference between these two? What's a student leader? What do you perceive a student leader to be?
Is a student leader interested and a leading student is committed?
Mm-hmm. They're interested. But a leading student is what?
Committed.
Committed. Right. And the biggest difference between these two comes down to the type of experience they choose to be involved in. So for example, let's say if you're a leading student and you're involved in, I don't know, a gaming organization, okay? Where you, I guess, whatever gamers do, they get together, they talk about games, or they put together events, okay? You're committed to that, but you may say, okay, but I need to actually have an experience with SGA to make it look good on my resume. Well, that makes sense in practicality, but the thing that you're going to want to talk about mostly in your interview will be your leading student experience, which will be your being a part of the game organization. This is just something that sort of fills the space up. So I think student leaders are those who just take the titles and positions and they're just involved in them. Versus leading students, they're just kind of, they're committed. And it doesn't matter who gets the credit. That's the other thing that's really important about leading students. It doesn't matter who gets the credit. They're not concerned with that because they understand that it's about that passion. I want to spend some time talking a little bit about, I'm veering off a little bit to talk a little bit about leadership. I think as a sophomore, you are, by virtue, a leading student because you've gotten to that first year. So it's certainly your responsibility to model and mentor other students. Now, I'm not saying to you that you need to be part of orientation or adopt a student program or something like that, but you have to model the type of behavior, and also, quite frankly, model to them how to be successful in terms of how to connect students to resources. Because I think that's half the battle in college. I think it comes down to three things. I think it's three things for college success. I think the first thing is you have to be able to build your team. And that, of course, means being aware of your campus resources. So understanding how to acquire tutors, where to go, who to talk to in financial aid when you're having troubles, meeting with your academic advisor, meeting with your professors on a regular basis. I mean, this is all a team. This is building your team. I think the second thing you gotta do, you gotta learn to overcome failure. Overcoming failure is so important because as a student leader, or as just a college student, you're going to run into challenges that may seem overwhelming at first, but you got to stick to it. To me, one of the easiest ways to overcome a failure is to have the mentality of no meaning next. So in other words, you get rejected, one door closes, be okay with that, move on to the next. Don't spend a lot of time dwelling on that last mishap or that particular failure that maybe you've gone through. The other thing I would say is being able to break things down in very smaller, more manageable jobs. So for example, this is modeled throughout college. You want to get your degree, but it's broken down according to credit by credit. That's how it's broken down. So when you see a task that's bigger than you or you're overwhelmed by, you want to, so to speak, eat the elephant. How would you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You say you wouldn't eat an elephant?
No.
We all eat elephants. We all eat elephants in whatever we do in life. But the key is eating it bite by bite. Not trying to, absorb the whole thing because you're not going to win. You only can eat but so much in a day anyway, right? So you have to be able to break things down. So building your team, overcoming failure, and last but not least, I think this is another good one, is being able to manage your time. So time management. As many of you have a sheet of paper right here. It says, how will you spend your time? How will you spend your time? Now, most of us can agree that if we were to only have 24 hours in a day, most of us would make the most of our time. We would spend time in with family. We would finally go after those goals that we've been putting off all our lives. But our time management will become very precise and to the T. We wouldn't just elude our time. We would make our time count. Because a lot of us really do believe that there is no end to our game. There's always an end to our game. All of us every day, and as much as this is not a motivational thing, it is the truth. We get closer to our death every day. So we have to make every day count for something. So I'm going to actually have you guys fill this out really quick. Sheet of paper, how you spend your time, and I want you to, in here, put down what a typical day looks like for you. Typical day. Take your time to do that, and then we're going to go ahead and I'm talk more about this time management thing. Because again, as sophomores, juniors, and seniors, your time is going to become very, very critical. Particularly now when, for those of you who are on financial aid, are in a situation where financial aid isn't extended like it used to be. Back in the day when I went to school, I guess the good old days, I suppose, you could get financial aid for like 9 years. But now, you only can get it for how long, Patrice? How long can you get financial aid? About 4 years?
No, I'm sorry, 5.
5 years. That's about it now. So if you ever decide what you want to do, too bad. Your time management is very important. I think everybody at some point should self-assess how they spend and manage their time. How much time does Bill Gates get in a day?
24.
How much time does the homeless man down the street get?
24.
24. Everyone gets 24 hours in a day. Now here's the cool thing about time management and what the rich do versus, I guess, the common person does. Rich people, because they have the resources to be able to do it, of course, but they outsource their time. In other words, they don't spend their time focused on things that they couldn't necessarily, they can do themselves, but it's not a good use of their time. These are one of the things I had to learn because I realized that, I run a company. Even though I'm the only person in my company, this is my company. And so I have to be very, very, very good about how I manage my time. So it must have been about 2 years ago. I was doing all this traveling. I would come home. I would literally throw down all my clothes. I would, my house became a mess. So what I decided to basically do, because usually it would take me like an entire Saturday to clean my whole house. It got just out of control. I said, not this time. I am going to pay someone to come over and clean my house. And that's what I did. And it felt really, really good. And I understand not everybody out there, particularly college students, may not necessarily have the means to be able to pay someone to clean their room. But the point of it is, I would have lost money trying to do that by myself as opposed to working on an idea or something. Because remember something, what's going on up in here can be way more valuable than the time you're putting in this. Jim Rohn once said, he said, in order to be successful in life, you got to work harder on yourself than in anything else. So for me, that was working harder on myself than someone else, or a job, or for someone else's dream. It was about working on myself. So time management is really important, what we do with our time. Now, if you don't do this activity, this is what I want you to do. I want you to take away 6 hours. Take away 6 hours. And of course, some of you ain't gonna be sleeping or eating, I guess, but that's okay. I want you to take away 6 hours. I want to see what happens. Because here's the thing, this is what we know about time. Whatever we value the most is the thing that we're gonna put more time to. I got a friend that says, my friend Hab, says people do what they want to do. And I think that's true. My dad once told me, he said, if a man didn't eat, that means he wasn't hungry enough. So I think you make time for the things that you value the most. Now, I just had you take away 6 hours, so what did you take away?
During an average day, I have about 6 hours exactly of time that I don't really have anything to do.
Okay, so you just kind of just chilling, just watching reality shows, watching Love and Hip Hop or something, right?
No.
Real Housewives of Atlanta? I don't watch such shows. Okay, maybe you don't. But you said you got 6 hours, okay? Let me dig in there a little bit more. Let me peel back another 6 hours. Take away another 6 hours. Now you're left with 12 hours a day. So you got to do everything that you got to do in 12 hours. Go ahead and peel back 6 more hours. See what that looks like. Patrice, what are you looking like? You're struggling over there, huh?
It's work and sleep.
Okay, we need to work on getting you some more time, then. Taking away hours might not be good for you. But again, it just goes back to that whole point I'm saying that we find the reasons, the motives, the things we really want to do in life. What does yours look like? What does it look like now?
It's pretty hard to do everything.
It's pretty hard to do everything in 12 hours, right?
Yeah.
But the things that you have that you want to do is up there, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So those are the things you value the most. And if I told you to cut another 6 hours, the things you really, really value are going to be up there for 6 hours. Whatever you find most important. That's why the activity is such an important activity. Because it teaches us, it gets us to really take a reflection at, like, what do we really value? What do we really value? Because you find a way to do it. So,